So I wasn't expecting this PowerPoint to go 3 times, but unfortunately it has. So here's the last, hopefully, and final part, part 3. So let's look at the effects of burial on a dead body. What's going to happen with the insects there? And so a lot of times if you have somebody who has killed someone, how they get rid of the body is a big deal to them because they don't want to get caught. So a lot of times they decide to bury it because it's actually kind of hard to get rid of a body. Burying a full-size human body at the traditional 2 meters depth requires a great deal of work and time, and the more time a criminal spends with the victim, the greater chance that evidence is going to be transferred. Hey, remember Locard? And also that the killer will be found with the remains. So generally, they do what they can pretty fast. Generally, it's a hasty, shallow grave that they dig. Buried remains are still colonized by insects, but burial influences the time required for insects to get to the remains, and the sequence of the colonization, what species are going to do it, and the rate of decomposition. You also got to look at geographical region, what type of soil you're in, whether or not they're disturbed, by somebody trying to get to the body for dinner, and how much time has passed since the burial. So there's a ton of stuff that you got to take into account. Sometimes insect colonization is going to be delayed by 2 or more weeks depending upon all those lovely factors right there. However, when carcasses were left exposed for 48 hours prior to burial, common homicide scenario, so basically they're taken 2 days before they actually dump the body, generally the carcasses are colonized by calophoric flies. These remains are presumably being colonized prior to actually getting buried, as maggots were present in the carcasses exhumed 2 weeks after death and 48 hours exposure, but not on carcasses that have been buried immediately after death. So if it's out there for a little bit, flies will find it. Depth of burial also has impacted decomposition and what insects go in there. Most cases of burial refer to illicit burial, in which the victim is usually buried hurriedly and shallowly, in an effort to rapidly dispose of the corpse. However, even traditional legal burials, you're going to have insects get in there to the remains, even those in a coffin. Such species have undergone several generations of the remains, and most common species are reported to inhabit coffins is Consinera tibalis. Bodies in water. When the remains are found in water, the succession of the insects will be different from that which you see on land. They're going to be impacted by, the body of water, is it lake, stream, ditch, ocean, temperature, season, absence or presence of clothing, what type of scavenging is going on, the climate zone. All those things are going to affect it. Bodies in vehicles. Sometimes victims are disposed of in kind of odd and weird ways, and this can either change or restrict the type of succession pattern you see. Cars and other vehicles are often used for suicide or the disposal of a body, and they provide an interesting environment for decomposition. The vehicle itself may act as a barrier to some species, but will act as a protectant from rain and predators, and also have an impact on temperature and humidity. Human remains have been discovered in the summer in a trunk of a small hatchback car parked in a city street in British Columbia. One front window was open about 3 centimeters. Blowflies colonized remains, and larval and pupal and of 2 different types were collected, along with a few empty puparii on both species. In addition, a few larval Calophora vomitoria were collected inside the vehicle. This was a rare case in which the Terranovi, and Mitoria were found in an urban environment, possibly indicating the vehicle had been moved. The numbers of blowflies and remains were considerably less than those normally expected. So it basically shows the vehicle was a barrier to some of the different types of insects. Temperature data showed that the daytime temperature inside the car were much higher than the ambient temperatures. However, nighttime temperatures both inside and out were very similar. So you got to kind of deal with that situation when you're dealing with a victim in a car. Oh, here's a good one. A human body that was found inside a domestic dishwasher. that had been dumped down the side of a cliff in a rural area in British Columbia. A large number of maggots actually managed to get in there too, and there were several adult carrion beetles also. The dishwasher was closed tightly, but the front handle was missing. That gave a little bit of a hole there, 1 centimeter in diameter, for these guys to get in. Burnt remains. A lot of times killers will burn a victim, but they don't realize it takes major temperature to get rid of, or completely get rid of a body, completely incinerated, and you generally don't get that with a regular fire. Even in a crematorium, there are recognized pieces of human remains still present. So you're going to get arthropod fauna that colonize this also. The burnt carcasses attracted much more fly off a position than unburnt carcasses. So basically showing burnt carcasses are still extremely attractive. There's some more information on burnt remains. Feel free once again to stop the PowerPoint so you can take a look at it. And we have some cases here. Kuwait, for you to read. Another case in southeastern United States for you to read. One dealing with a Hungarian skipper. One of child neglect. And Colonel William Shy, a case study too. So once again, feel free to take a look at these case studies, go through them. You can stop the recording and take a look. Alright, so sorry this was such a long series here, but as you can already tell from this, insects will find a way to get to a body. There's going to be differences of succession depending on where it's at, what the temperature is going on. Literally, when I talk about where, if in a car versus what part of the country, summer, shade, full sunshine, winter, all the clothing, non-clothing. There's so many different variables here that you have to take into account when you're actually looking at this. So it definitely takes time and somebody who is definitely who definitely knows their field.